コン。
So you're a degenerate. You watched all of Season 1 of Chainsaw Man, loved it, can't wait for Season 2, so you need something to hold you over till then. Something plastic and collectible, no doubt. So you head on over to your local plastic crack dealer and ugh, what the fuck? Remember when Figma were like €30 or $30? €30 dollars. Mecha Farm remembers. I remember it well. I stand that figure line like there was no tomorrow. I didn't miss a single release, like it was a heartbeat. I was in love. What the feckin' hell happened? Maxu Watanabe must be hitting the legal cigarettes hard. I mean, seriously, look at Aki here. Look at Aki. There's like literally no accessories inside of the box, and this retails for over 11,000 yen. That is €75 dollars. I mean, in Japan, that's where it retails for this price, in Japan, the minimum wage is 961 yen an hour. Now let's do the math here. 11,000 yen divided by 961, that's what I said, wasn't it? My mind, I can't remember numbers. But anyway, that is 11.44. You're looking at 12 hours. A day and a half's work. If you're part-time, that might be a couple of days' work. 3 days' work even. And that's what he expects for this. That, nothing in the box. Maybe he personally drops an air biscuit in there as well, I don't know. I mean, hop on into the time machine with me back to 2014 or whenever. Remember the Attack on Titan Figmas? I do. I really remember those ones. Those were awesome. 5,000 yen and the box was packed. You even got a cool pre-order kind of roof-like stand for using with them. There was so much inside of the box and they cost €35 dollars. I mean, that's not even where it started. If you go back even further, Figma cost 3,000 yen, 2,000 yen, at the upper end of 2,000 yen zone. And you might be like, oh, well, things have gotten more expensive, cost of materials, etc. I mean, just look through these. Look at Thorfinn. What? What? Because he has a jacket? I mean, seriously, on and on and on it goes. And like, you have to remember, these are outsourced to China to cut costs. These are not made in Japan. I mean, just for a comparison's sake, Bandai and their SH Figuarts version can do it for nearly half of the price. And, you know, speaking of action figure Chainsaw Men, or Chainsaw Mans, is it Chainsaw Men or Chainsaw Mans? I guess it doesn't matter. But yeah, that's the Figma. That's the one that's almost double the price. Needless to say, I'm not very happy, and the reason for that is I still want every single one of them. They're goddamn cool, but that price is just obnoxious. And that's if you're standing in the middle Akiba buying in Japan. Like I said, I still want them all, but with the new Figma pricing policy, shipping, Irish import taxes, etc., I'm probably looking at €150 dollars plus a Figma. Sad megaface.jpg. I mean, what does Max Watanabe expect me to do? Go out and build my own? Well, why don't you? Wait, no, seriously, who said that? Oh yeah, it's my lord and saviors over Bandai. So, Bandai's model kit figures are getting better and better even. These ones right here, these are the Kime Pose, aka Kit Make Pose model kits of Chainsaw Man by Bandai. Oh, SMP. I built one of these SMP kits before and I felt like I was transported back to 1992. So I guess the bottom line here is, are these Bandai model kit Chainsaw Man figures actually any good? Well, let's find out. By the way, I got these over at Hobby Link Japan, so if you want some of your own, link is down there in the description. So yeah, these right here, these are model kits, as in you need to snip them off of the runners or sprues, whatever you like to call them, and snap them together with a little bit of cleanup. Now I'm going to treat this build section right here like you don't know exactly what a model kit is all about, because I know 90%, maybe 99% of you guys who watch my videos all the time, you build kits, so that means you know exactly what to do here. You snip them out, clean them up. These are very simple to build kits, but let's kind of wind it back a little bit and talk about the specifics. So these build up incredibly easy. The plastic in here is quite nice. It is the similar style I would have seen with that other Or1 or Or-Gun or whatever it's called figure that our model kit that I showed a little while ago. But the thing is, this actually feels like it suits figure style model kits, you know, of human beings, if you can call Chainsaw Man a human being, a little bit more than Mecha. It's a little bit more rubbery. It does have a little bit of a shine, however, so the skin and the clothing will have a bit of a shine. But it is rough and tough, so it means you can actually pose these quite well without a fear of breaking. These build up very simply. You just attach all the parts together. It's usually 2 bits for every section. You do have to put little parts in between a lot of them just for the joints, but this is very, very, very simple. It doesn't take a lot of extra work to do it. So much so that I actually did commit a model kit sin while building these for your pleasure. So that is, I just single snipped everything off the runners for this. This is something you do not do with model kits because it can cause stress marks. The way you're meant to do it is like this right here in the face. You snip it off the runner once, then you snip it once again to remove the nub that's left over, or the gate right here. That means you get less stress marks or little white marks on your kit, so they look a lot more pretty when you've them done. But I went in a little bit rough and tough just to kind of show what you would get even if you weren't that experienced. And honestly, these don't mark too much. They're very easy to build. Now the torso, and by the way, right now I'm talking about Chainsaw Man himself, not Denji, has a lot going on in it. Probably the most difficult aspect of it because you have to chain together a bunch of little joints and then you have to build the clothes up on top of that. But it works out so well. The chainsaws on Chainsaw Man's arms right here, and all of the parts of the head actually come pre-painted. So unlike, and also the shoes too by the way, so unlike some other model kits out there like of Mecha etc, you don't actually have to paint anything, and it does look figure-ish already where it counts. In the head on Chainsaw Man, on the arms, the shoes, the detail is all there and out of box. I am ridiculously impressed so far. Simple to build, but great payoff. Painted parts on the runners as well, for stuff like the belt. So cool. Then when you're cracking out Denji, this does work a little bit different. There is less painted parts on the runners, and he's, for the most part, in the nip. We do have some painted parts for his shoes, but that is about it. Besides that, it's all loads of bits and pieces and whatnot, and the inside of his torso, well, the rest of him builds up the same as we would have seen before, like the pants, etc. But inside of his torso, it's a lot smaller than what we would have seen in the body. So these aren't exact. I thought you'd almost have essentially the same structure inside of both, but you do not. Also, the build of the head is quite similar to what you'd see with most anime figures. That is, you've got the face plates, and you've two to choose from, by the way. You've got a bunch of hands in here as well. I built the faces on the runner just as simpler to hold them. You have to pop the eyes in, and for one of the heads, you have to pop on a tongue. We do have an option of no actual pupils for the eyes, so if you want them with wide eyes or want to change the direction his eyes are looking by painting it yourself, you can do that. But yeah, this snaps together as well in exactly the same way, and both work out great, but I do feel the Chainsaw Man version works out a little bit better. Two do come in a box. That means they both come together, but that does mean one awesome thing, which I might as well just mention right now. You can mix and match their parts. But anyway, that's enough about the build. Let's get right on into the aesthetics and see what these look like finished. So getting both of them completed, this right here is what you get. Denji, of course, on the left. We've got Chainsaw Man, who's also Denji on the... Did I say left? Either way, that's both of them right there. And of course, the GOAT himself, Pochita. So yeah, if you're anything like me, your immediate question when it comes to these figures right here is, just how big are they exactly? So yeah, that's exactly where I'm going to start. So straight away, there's an example of just how tall a Figma is beside... Oh, shit. So starting off with a Figma figure, there is Aaron. Oh, watch out for that there little wire. Can I stand him up? So there is this size a Figma is in comparison. Of course, Figma do vary, so that's just one at absolute random. Taking another one of Bandai's figure kits. This is on a base, so it does look a little bit taller than it normally would. There is Sulata Mercury from The Witch from Mercury. So as you can see, they are quite tall. And if you want an exact measurement, according to the box right here, those are 15 centimeters tall. Hey Siri, what is 15 centimeters in inches?
15 centimeters is 5.91 inches.
There you go. When you're thinking Gunpla, there is a high grade, which is Gundam Aerial, and there is a master grade, which is the Oryx 78-2 Origin version. And lastly then, there is a Space Marine. So now jumping into the full 360 spin, and we're going to take them one at a time, starting with Chainsaw Man himself. So on the whole, I have to say I am absolutely ridiculously impressed by this. So if these cost around the €55 or $1 mark, that does mean this is about 27.5-ish for this guy himself, and that is pretty cool. What Bandai have done with the head and the arms on here works so well that these are painted out of box. But you might notice when this is spinning around that it is a little bit on the very shiny side. So it does mean the head right there looking really matte with the paint on it does look a lot more fancy than the body itself. Also, depending on the way you've kind of posed or whatever, it can be easy to not notice that the plastic part in the center of the body is actually free flying in there. It's not attached to anything, so it can move around while you're posing it, but it is something you can kind of forget about like I did right here and leave it a little out of whack. However, the pose and everything, the chainsaws coming out from the arms, everything here does look insanely good. If you want to get rid of that shine, you can just grab yourself a can of matte top coat, spray this down, and then you'll get a nice matte finish all over. But of course that does add to the cost because that stuff ain't cheap. But if you do a lot of painting or building a lot of models, the likelihood of you having some lying around, especially if you airbrush a lot, it's definitely worth it just to mattify it and give it that figure kind of look. Unless you want to paint the whole thing, that is. So jumping on in a little closer now, and it really is the head that is the crown jewel of this, and that is really important considering that Chainsaw Man's head really is the most important aspect. So all of the detail on this does come pre-painted inside of the box, and props to Bandai for actually doing that. If this was just done in model kit, it may look a whole lot plainer and not really look as effective. On top of the fact that this actually looks fantastic, we do have a nice opening mouth mechanism here too, so you can actually have that big visceral open mouth done. It looks like it's hanging a little to the side there. Oh, you're actually able to move it side to side too if you want to look at it a little bit side-jawed. But yeah, in general, that right there is what it looks like. And I have to say, when it does come to the head right here, I am thoroughly impressed by that right there. So now moving from chainsaw to chainsaw, the arm chainsaws in this once again come painted inside of the box. So that means you just pop them in between the two arms of the, or should I say the two parts of the model kit arm, and this is what you get. They do look extremely good. Once again, these are in matte because they are painted, so they catch the light in the perfect possible way. These look insanely good. Also, the way they are attached into the arms has been done quite well. Of course, you're not going to get action figures without the joints in there, but on the whole, it's been done incredibly well. Next up then, and the next thing that's painted inside of the box are the shoes. Once again, these do look very nice, pretty much perfect when it actually comes to the red on the lines there. We've a split for a nice bit of toe articulation, but the upper parts of the shoes, the tongue, and the upper segment right there, this is also kind of free floating. It kind of wiggles around all the time on you, so sometimes in poses it can look a little weird, but does make sure that these do not get in the way while you're busting out your poses. Also, that right there, that's what they look like from the bottom, so maybe don't look at that. But yeah, on the whole, this is looking pretty awesome. We do have a little bit of a hole right in behind the tie right there, which is for using with the pull string. That does not come with this version, it comes with the Denji. And overall, I would say this sculpt is very nice. The colors are where they need to be, so we do have some paint work on the belt right there, which is done on the runners themselves, which is very impressive. And, well, besides that, the only thing that really does detract from it are the free floating parts in the shoulders, the waist, the legs, etc. But it is a model kit. It does pose up extremely well, so you can't really complain about those too much. But they are there and they can be noticeable in some poses, and you can see into the joints from around back when he is hunched over. But on the whole, pretty awesome. So next on the chopping block is Denji himself. So that's what he looks like in that full 360-degree spin. And honestly, what you'd notice straight away, well, for one, for a model kit, this does look absolutely outstanding. But there are a couple of negative aspects worth mentioning. First off, of course, it is shiny, so he kind of looks like he's completely oiled up, including his jeans and shoes somehow. But actually, not so much the shoes. Those are painted, so they're not so shiny. But the jeans look like they're made out of rubber. But yeah, once again, I do recommend hitting this with a matte top coat if possible, but overall it does look quite good. Of course, this is extremely segmented, as you can see. When it comes to an action figure, that can be a little bit on the distracting side, depending on your own perspective, especially depending on the kind of poses you put it into. This has been definitely designed with certain poses in mind. Ones like this right here don't really work that well because it does highlight this segmentation, especially in the arms and some of the odd aspects of the upper body. But on the whole, again, quite good. Let's get in a little bit closer. So when it comes to figures or action figures, my eye automatically darts to the face, and this is the face on Denji right here. They've done pretty good with the eyes. The eyes have been printed like this in box, the sculpt on the nose looking pretty good, and the teeth in there looking kind of, well, you can't really see the detail, so you might want to actually line between the teeth a little bit, not to have lost that in there. But on the whole, not too bad. Could do with a little bit of work, maybe with a little bit of shading or using some kind of like model kit paint shade stuff. You might be able to get this looking a little bit better. But out of box like this, not so bad. Maybe looking a little bit more psycho than he actually is. As for the hair sculpt, once again, looking very nice. Could do with a little bit of highlight and low lighting. I'm using some harsh lighting right here, kind of just to bring out the shadowing on it. Because if you just hit it straight up with a direct light, like this right here, it does lose somewhat some of its detail. But otherwise, the sculpt is pretty good. There is a split down the side right there in order to swap out the faces. But on the whole, again, not too bad. So when it comes to the torso down here, this is looking okay. We've got some decent musculature molded into it, but again, this is incredibly segmented. The central part here, again, is a kind of floating little piece, so that does move like that. If you bend them over, you'll see into the joints. And the arms are incredibly segmented where the parts go together. Now, a lot of these are articulation, some are not, so you may need to close some of those seams by cementing them and sanding them. Again, swapping out the lighting for something a little bit harsher. As you can see, it is quite well sculpted, so there is some nice detailing in there, but it is a little bit hard to get past all the segments running through it. Now, we'll also mention that in general, this figure hasn't been given the same love and attention that Chainsaw Man got. For example, when you look at the trousers right there, there is no like paintwork like we would have seen on the belt of Chainsaw Man. Now, this is more than likely and probably 100% color accurate, but it does kind of show a little bit. Everything looks a little bit one-dimensional. Again, some kind of like panel wash or something like that, some kind of shading would definitely bring out the details for you. This is a model kit, not a figure, so don't be afraid to whip out some tools and some paints. Lastly, then we've got the little pink shoes on this version of Denji, and as you can see, these are painted for the most part. The toe part of these, funnily enough, is model kit, so it doesn't match entirely with the shoes, but on the whole, not too bad. And considering the price point, this is pretty damn cool. So when it comes to the articulation, I'm going to take them one at a time, starting with Chainsaw Man. Now, when it comes to the overall build strength, these are rock solid. They're not going to drop a pose. The only thing that kind of rattles around is those parts that are kind of free-floating here and there, but they're not so bad depending on how you have it posed. So getting into the usual pose, and this absolutely kills it. As you can see though, I can't really get it to stand up on its own due to, well, just the distribution of weight. So you can actually use these with action bases. We've got a bit of a nice butthole around here you can stick that on into. And as you can see, Chainsaw Man right here completely dominates the usual test pose I throw kits into to test how they pose. These are called kit mix pose, and they're definitely doing exactly what it says in the box. This thing can pose up a storm. Now, of course, there is the issue sometimes of the fact that you can't see some joints from some angles, but if you are posing it to be seen from the front, that doesn't really matter all that much. On the whole though, this is very nice. So yeah, without a single doubt, Chainsaw Man right here can bust a pose and bust it really well. Pretty much anything you'd want from an action figure or a model kit is here. This really does put the pose in the kit makes pose. That seems to be what these are designed for, and this one is killing it entirely. Now, the most important aspect when it comes to posing a character is, can it pull off the iconic poses? So we're going to start off with this one right here. This is the one I actually started off the video with, and this one, it can do no bother at all, besides that one arm right there. That one. See how it's pointing down? Well, with the kit, you can't actually do that because you can't bend the arm, you know, that way. It can only bend this way. So if you want to get that pose, the arm would need to be bending the other way. Maybe you can flip the joints inside of it, but as it stands right here, that's the only issue, really. So next up, pretty much every figure of Chainsaw Man is pulling off this pose right here. So can this one? Well, the one thing it can't do is we do not have a tongue included. So yeah, besides the tongue, absolutely no issue whatsoever, and the shirt actually does move in the right way to cover up all the joints. So this free moving part in here does do its job quite well when, well, you need to get it to do what you needed to get it to do. So, impressive, definitely. So finally then there's this pose right here, which a whole bunch of figures also showcase, so I'm going to try pulling this one off. And what I got in the end is this right here. I didn't quite get as good as Bandai showed themselves. That's probably my own fault, but the articulation is phenomenal, especially the way this shoulder moved forward. This is so perfectly done. I spent so much time messing around with this one, I don't have much time to spend on this one, so let's just test it. So once again, solid for the most part, besides the rattly bit in the middle right there. But anyway, let's get this tested. Anyway, this feels fluid. That leg is getting a little bit on the floppy side. Now, the design in general of this one just isn't really as good. Like, it can't really raise its arm up too high either. Mainly because I guess they try to either keep the joints a little bit limited in comparison, so it's not as segmented. But on the whole, definitely this one does not do quite as well as the other version. Also, it doesn't have fixed hips like the other one. They kind of rock in a way, which means it does feel a little bit weaker. It's not the worst by any margin, but it's not fantastic either. Actually, it's pretty damn good, honestly. When I say that, I mean relatively compared to the other one. The back looking a little bit like a crustacean, however. But yeah, it's not bad. Not as good, but not bad. And definitely very, very exoskeleton-y looking. Exoskeleton-y? That's a new adjective. Anyway, onto the accessories. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's everything that comes with these kits, and I'm going to have to mention that I spent so long the other segments, I'm going to have to fast track this one. So what comes inside this box, or should I say, everything you're seeing right here comes inside of the Denji box. So if somehow you're buying these kits separately, everything here, that's with Denji only, nothing in the Chainsaw Man. So what we're getting here is an alternate face, some alternate eyes that have no pupils, a whole bunch of those pull thingies to start a chainsaw's engine, a alternate chest for using the pulley thing, a whole bunch of hands, 8 right here, 10 in total including the fists on them. These are all pairs. Next up we've got a couple of wrist joints, and finally we've got the man of the hour himself, Pochita. So first up we're going to be talking faces. We've seen this one already, it's the one that's been on the whole time. So the alternate face then is this one right here. I'll let you make your own decision on what you think that looks like, if it's good or bad. But yeah, as for swapping out the faces, it's simple. It's the usual figure routine. You pop off the hair. I will mention the hair here isn't made out of the usual figure softness. This is a little bit on the hard side, so it will spike the absolute shit out of your fingers while you're doing it. Underneath, then you've got the face plate. You can just pop that off like so. This here looks like a face. That can be a face. Attaching the other faceplate on is super simple. It pops on like so. You pop back on the hair. Beware your fingers. This is razor sharp. And then you end up with this right here. So, worth it or not worth it? I don't know. Maybe the other face might be better. So next up in here we've got hands, and once again these are nicely sculpted. They look really, really, really good. If you shaded them in a little bit, you'd get that nail standing out a little bit more. Once again, maybe top coating this and hitting it with a wash will make the details pop a little bit better. So yeah, the hands are fists, peace signs, as well as 2 versions of the pull cord pulling hands for pulling with the thumb and pulling with the index finger. Finally then we've got a holding hand, which looks a little something like that right there. Next up then in here we've got the pochita, and honestly, this right here, worth the €55 itself. This is awesome. It doesn't move or anything like that, but it does do what it does perfectly, and that is be pochita. Getting pochita attached is very, very simple. It's designed quite well. You're able to snap the handle in the butt off to the side like so, snap the handle up top out of the way, and then you can just pop the butt handle into the hand like so without even removing it, and it snaps in like so. Front handle into his hand, and then snap it back onto Pochita. This just works so fluidly. This figure, in general, does move ever so nicely, and getting into a pose is so fluid too. It just works out, and that is something I do love about it. Anyway, that's what Denji looks like in a pose with Pochita, and that is fantastic. Now, one sadness and heartbreak later, and we've got an alternate chest part to do this right here. Changing out the chest segments is very simple. You just pop off the chest segment just like so by pulling it off, and then pop on the other one like so. The hole in the center right there is for using the pull cord, and you just pop the pull cord right in just like so. You can also use this chest for other nefarious means like this right here, but usually just for chest-related activities. We have 2 variants of the pull cord. That is the one that's hanging down like so on the left, and we've got the longer version for pulling like on the right. We'll mention we also have 2 of both of these, not just the 1 of each, so it does mean you can actually use them with the hole that is in the chest of Chainsaw Man right here, which we'll see in a bit. So we do have hands for using with this particular cord, like this one right here. Just line it up the right way. These Wrist joints can be a little bit fucking awkward. But when you do manage to get it sorted out, it will look a little like that. So you can be pulling it with his finger or pulling it with his thumb. And I will mention you've got right and left of both of those hands, so many pulling choices. Lastly, then we do have these alternate eyes, which are the same as the eyes, just in white. So you can just kind of imagine what they're happening. I'm not pulling their heads apart just to try different eyes. Now, speaking of pulling heads apart, the crown jewel of this actually being a 2-pack is the parts are interchangeable. So you can actually, well, why describe it when I can just do it? Jesus, I have to change that head. I can't look at it anymore. That's better. And there you go. So that right there is an insanely cool feature, and probably the coolest aspect about this double box, that you can mix and match the parts to your heart's content. Mainly just to do what it's doing right here. So that's not really to your heart's content. It's really limited actually, but it is insanely cool. So you can have 2 different versions of each. I will mention the suit version always works the best by far. Sometimes that middle bit goes a little funny, but for the most part, it's the suit one that wins all round, and it almost feels like this is just for harnessing the parts to do this. The Chainsaw Man version with the no top, the neck does kind of sit a little bit on the funny side, so there is a little bit of a gap in there like so it's not so flush. Once again, model kit, so you can mod and change it to your heart's content. I don't know why I said that again, but heart. Anyway, I'm totally out of time for today, so once again, this video right here would not have been possible without those absolutely awesome people over at Hobby Link Japan. These are ridiculously cool. For the price and well, considering what they are, this shows that there's going to be a very bright future for model kit style anime action figures, and I am so psyched about it. Anyways, always thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more model kit reviews, and as always, I will see you next time.